Commander Diane Powell stood tall on the bridge of the USS Intrepid. Her blue uniform fit perfectly, showing the 3 gold stripes on her sleeves. Today was big. The biggest day in human history. Today, humans would meet aliens for the first time. 5 minutes to docking, Commander, said Officer Paul Green. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel. Diane nodded. Thank you, Officer Green. All crew members to first contact stations. The ship hummed as it slowed down. Through the main window, they could see the massive Zorthalian ship. It was huge, at least 20 times bigger than the Intrepid. The alien ship looked like a giant bug, with spikes and strange bumps all over. Lieutenant Sam Miller stood next to Diane. He was the fleet's tactical officer. His job was to study how other ships fought. Their ship design is interesting, he said. Lots of weapon ports, but strange blind spots near the engines. Diane looked at Sam. He was smart. Maybe too smart for his own good sometimes. Keep those thoughts to yourself during the meeting. We're here to make friends. Sam nodded, but his eyes still moved over the alien ship, studying it. The ship docked with a small bump. Diane took a deep breath. Let's go meet our new galactic neighbors. 5 crew members walked behind Diane and Sam. They moved down the long hallway to the airlock. The door opened with a hiss. On the other side stood the aliens. The Zorthalians were tall, nearly 8 feet. They had hard shells like bugs, shiny and black with green lines. Their forearms ended in claws. Their faces had big black eyes and small mouths that clicked when they talked. The biggest alien stepped forward. I am Supreme Admiral Kraz Tur of the Zorthalian Dominion. His voice came through a translator box on his chest. It sounded flat and cold. We control 300 star systems and thousands of planets. Diane stepped forward too. She looked small next to the alien, but she didn't show fear. I am Commander Diane Powell of Earth. We welcome you and hope for friendship between our peoples. Kraz Tur's mouth parts clicked faster. Yes, friendship, we have much to discuss. Please follow me to the meeting room. The humans followed the aliens down a tall, wide hallway. Everything was built for creatures bigger than humans. Diane felt like a child in a grown-up's house. The meeting room was big with a round table. The humans sat on one side, the aliens on the other. The seats were too big for the humans, their feet not touching the floor. Tell us about your species, said Kraz Tur. Diane talked for an hour about Earth, humans, and their history. She explained how humans had only started space travel 100 years ago, how they had colonies on Mars and mining stations on the moons of Jupiter. Kraz Tur listened without moving. When Diane finished, he asked, And your fleet? How many warships do humans have? We have 12 warships in our defense fleet, Diane said. The Intrepid is one of them. The room filled with strange clicking sounds. The aliens were laughing. 12 ships? Kraz Tur's translator couldn't hide his surprise. Our smallest battle group has 50 capital ships. Our full fleet has thousands. Diane's face got red, but she stayed calm. Our ships are very advanced. We focus on quality over quantity. This made the aliens laugh more. Adorable, said Kraz Tur. Your little toys are cute. Perhaps Earth would be better with Zorthalian protection. Small species like yours don't last long out here alone. Sam Miller watched the aliens carefully. His eyes narrowed as he noticed something. The Zorthalians kept talking about numbers. Always numbers. How many ships, how many planets, how many weapons, but not how good those things were. The meeting went on for 3 more hours. The aliens talked about the Galactic Defense Initiative, a group of species working together. They said Earth could join, but only as a junior member under Zorthalian guidance. We will consider your offer, Diane said when the meeting ended. Her voice was polite but cold. Back on the Intrepid, Diane called a meeting with her crew. Well, that could have gone better. They treated us like children, said Communications Officer Lisa Wright. Like we were stupid. They're bullies, said Medical Officer Ben Patel. They want us to know they're stronger than us. Sam Miller had been quiet. Now he spoke up. Commander, I noticed something. The Zorthalians only care about numbers. not technology or tactics. Go on, said Diane. Their ships have many weapons, but they're all direct-fire energy weapons. Line of sight only. And did you see the formation of their ships when we arrived? Perfect lines. No adaptive positioning. Diane thought about this. So they think in straight lines. Attack in straight lines. Yes, said Sam. And they judge strength only by counting ships. They don't understand quality can beat quantity. Diane stood up. We need to talk to Admiral Carter as soon as we get back to Earth. This might be important. The Intrepid turned away from the alien ship and headed home. The crew felt small after meeting the powerful aliens, but Sam kept thinking about what he had seen. You know, he said to Diane as they watched Earth appear in the distance, the Zorthalians might have made a big mistake today. What's that? Asked Diane. They showed us exactly how they think, and they didn't even try to understand how we think. Diane smiled for the first time since the meeting. And you think that matters? In war, understanding your enemy is everything, said Sam. They think we're weak because we have few ships. But they never asked what our ships can do. As the blue planet grew larger in the window, Diane felt a small hope. Maybe Earth wasn't as outmatched as it seemed. Maybe, just maybe, the aliens' laughter would come back to haunt them someday. Get me a direct line to Admiral Carter, she told Lisa. I think we need to run some new battle simulations as soon as possible. The Intrepid sped toward Earth, carrying news of first contact and the seed of an idea that might one day save humanity. From the powerful aliens who had laughed at their tiny fleet, the giant Zorthalian flagship drifted in space, dark and powerless. Around it floated the 12 undamaged ships of Earth's fleet. 6 hours had passed since the battle ended. The rest of the alien fleet had jumped away, leaving their leader. Behind Commander Diane Powell and Lieutenant Sam Miller stood in the Intrepid's airlock, putting on spacesuits. They were going to board the alien flagship to accept the surrender. Nervous? Asked Diane as she checked Sam's helmet. A little, admitted Sam. We're about to walk onto a ship full of 8-foot-tall angry bugs who just lost a war. Diane smiled, slightly. They're soldiers, they understand defeat. I hope so, said Sam. 4 armed guards went with them. They traveled from the Intrepid to the alien ship in a small shuttle. The flagship was huge, making the shuttle look like a fly next to a whale. They docked at an emergency airlock since the main docking bays had no power. The door opened slowly, pushed by hand from inside. A group of Zorthalians waited for them. The aliens' normally shiny shells looked dull without the bright lights. This way, said one alien in rough English. No translator boxes worked without power. Supreme Commander waits. They walked through dark hallways. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. Injured aliens moved aside as they passed. Some clicked their mouth parts angrily. Others just looked defeated. The command center was lit by portable lights. Supreme Commander Krazutur sat in his big chair, still looking proud despite his defeat. His right upper arm was missing, the wound covered with a makeshift bandage. Commander Powell, he said, his voice hard without the electronic translation. Come to gloat? Diane stepped forward. No. I've come to accept your surrender and offer medical help for your wounded. Krazutur's black eyes narrowed. How generous of the victors. The bitterness in his voice was clear. We're not like you, said Diane simply. We don't enslave defeated enemies. The alien commander was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been haunting him. How? How did 12 ships defeat 200? Sam stepped forward. You counted our ships, we counted your weaknesses. Explain, demanded Krazutur. Sam looked at Diane, who nodded. Your ships only use direct-fire energy weapons. Your formations never adapt. Your neural structure makes three-dimensional tactical thinking difficult for your species. We saw all this during our first meeting. Krazutur's mouth parts clicked, rapidly in surprise. The diplomatic meeting that was months ago, you were planning for this even then? Not planning for war, said Diane, but preparing for it. You made your intentions clear when you began invading other systems. The giant aliens stood up, towering over the humans. You tricked us. The panic on your planet, the evacuation orders, we intercepted. It was all a ploy to make us overconfident. Yes, admitted Diane. And you fell for it completely. The USS Intrepid shot through space like a bullet. Commander Diane Powell held tight to her chair as the ship shook. Around her, the crew worked quickly, their faces lit by the glow of screens. First target group in range, called out Weapons Officer Maya Collins. 20 exorthalian ships directly ahead. Harbinger status? Asked Diane. Fully operational, said Engineer Ryan Davis. Space distortion at maximum. Their weapons can't get a lock on us. Diane took a deep breath. This was the moment everything depended on. Activate Harbinger offensive mode. Ryan pressed a series of buttons. The ship hummed louder as the Harbinger system changed. Instead of bending space around the Intrepid, it now projected the distortion field forward toward the alien ships. The effect was immediate. On the screen, they watched as the space around 20 massive Zorthalian warships began to warp and twist. The alien ships' energy weapons fired, but the beams curved in impossible ways. Some beams looped back, hitting the ships that fired them. My God, whispered Maya. It's working. 3 Zorthalian ships exploded as their own weapons hit them. Others crashed into each other, unable to maintain their perfect formation in the distorted space. Diane didn't smile. This was only the beginning. Move to the next target group. Continue the attack. Across the battlefield, all 12 Earth ships followed the same plan. The USS Horizon, with Lieutenant Sam Miller at the tactical station, targeted another group of alien ships. Harbinger offensive mode activated, Sam reported. Targeting their command group. Captain Eli Johnson nodded. Time to deploy Pandora. Sam pressed a button on his console. Pandora away. A small object left the horizon, moving toward the heart of the Zorthalian fleet. It didn't look like a weapon. It was too small to cause physical damage. But its purpose was far more devastating. On the Zorthalian flagship, Supreme Commander Krastor was shouting, "What is happening? Why can't we hit them?" "Their ships are bending space somehow," said his science officer. "Our weapons can't track them." "Impossible!" Krastor slammed his claw down. "No species has this technology." "Sir," called his communications officer, "something is accessing our network." Before Krastor could respond, all the screens on his ship changed. A human face appeared, Lieutenant Sam Miller. "Greetings, Supreme Commander," said Sam. His voice was calm. "Allow me to explain what's happening. This isn't a malfunction, this isn't a trick, this is strategy." The same message played on every ship in the Zorthalian fleet. 200 ship commanders watched and listened. "You laughed at our tiny fleet," Sam continued. "You counted our ships and thought you knew our strength. But you never asked what our ships could do. You never considered that we might understand you better than you understand us." Krastor tried to shut off the message, but nothing worked. The Pandora device had complete control of their systems. "Humans think differently than Zorthalians," Sam explained. "You think in straight lines. We think in curves. You count ships. We count weaknesses." On the screen behind Sam, diagrams showed how the Harbinger system worked, how it bent space around human ships, making them nearly impossible to hit with energy weapons, how it could project that distortion onto enemy vessels, causing their own weapons to backfire. "Your invasion fleet is already being destroyed," said Sam. "Not by our weapons, but by your own. Your rigid tactics and linear thinking have led you into a trap." All around Krastor's ship, he could see the truth of these words. Dozens of Zorthalian vessels were already destroyed or damaged. The perfect formation was breaking apart as ships tried to escape the strange distortions in space. "This is your chance to withdraw," said Sam. "Take your remaining ships and leave our system. Tell your leaders that Earth is not to be threatened again." The message ended. Krastor stood, frozen for a moment. Then rage filled him. "Continue the attack. All ships forward." But the damage was done. The Pandora device had not just delivered a message. It had broken the Zorthalian command structure. Some ship captains, seeing the truth of the situation, were already retreating. Others, loyal to Krastur, continued forward. The perfect formation, the core of Zorthalian battle strategy, was shattered. From Earth, Admiral Carter watched the battle unfold on his screens. "They're breaking formation," he said. "Phase 2 is working." Beside him, Dr. Frank Martinez nodded. "Their psychology works against them now. When they can't maintain their rigid patterns, they lose cohesion as a fighting force." On the USS Defiant, Lieutenant Kate Brown monitored the Zorthalian communications. "They're in chaos," she reported to her captain. "Some ships are calling for retreat. Others want to continue the attack. They're arguing with each other." Captain Greg Harris smiled grimly. "Perfect. Send the signal for Phase 3. All 12 Earth ships now moved in perfect coordination. Instead of attacking individually, they began working together, creating overlapping Harbinger fields. The distortions in space grew larger, affecting more alien ships at once. On the USS Horizon, Sam watched the tactical display with satisfaction. 53 enemy ships destroyed, 38 heavily damaged, 42 retreating. Captain Eli looked at him. "And the rest?" "Still fighting," said Sam, "including the flagship." Eli nodded. "Then we continue. Focus all Harbinger fields on Krastur's command ship." All 12 Earth vessels converged on the massive Zorthalian flagship. As they approached, they created a complex web of spatial distortions around it. The flagship fired desperately, but every shot curved away or came back to hit it. On his bridge, Krastur watched in horror as his mighty ship lost power. Systems failed one by one. Fires broke out on lower decks. Half his crew was dead. "How?" he whispered. "How can 12 ships defeat 200? His tactical officer, loyal to the end, had no answer. They both watched as the human ships surrounded them, continuing to warp space around the once mighty flagship. On the Intrepid, Diane Powell received a message from Admiral Carter. "The Zorthalian fleet is in full retreat. Only the flagship remains functional, and barely at that. End this, Commander." Diane looked at her crew. They were tired but determined. They had trained for months for this moment. "Target their engine, core with maximum Harbinger distortion. Let's finish this." The 12 ships of Earth's fleet focused their Harbinger fields on one spot, the flagship's main power core. Space twisted so severely that the core collapsed in on itself. The giant ship went dark, all power gone. "We've won," said Maya Collins softly. "We actually won." Diane nodded. "Send a message to the flagship. Tell them we're coming aboard to accept their surrender." As the battle ended, the crew of the Intrepid looked at each other with newfound confidence. They had faced an enemy 50 times their size and won through superior tactics and technology. "The Zorthalians made one critical mistake," Diane told her crew. "They thought warfare was about numbers. We knew it was about intelligence." Outside the viewport, Earth still shone blue and peaceful. The planet had come close to enslavement or destruction, but its defenders, in their tiny fleet of 12 ships, had proven that sometimes the smallest force can be the most powerful, if it's smart enough to use its enemy's strength against them. 6 months passed. The USS Defiant floated silently in the shadow of a small moon. The ship was dark, using minimal power to hide from sensors. On the bridge, Lieutenant Kate Brown listened to her headphones with intense focus. Kate was an intelligence officer. Her job was to listen to alien communications and understand them. She had been hiding here for 2 weeks, recording everything the Zorthalians said to each other. "Got something," she said suddenly. "Big transmission from Zorthalian. High Command." Captain Greg Harris moved to her station. "What are they saying?" Kate's fingers moved over her screen as she translated. "They've finished conquering the Talari system. 3 billion people. Enslaved." Her voice shook slightly. "They're calling them new workforce assets." Greg's face hardened. "Any mention of Earth?" Kate kept listening. Then her face went pale. "Yes, we're next. They're sending a fleet to pacify the human problem. 200 ships." Greg immediately hit the communications button. We need to send this to Earth now. Encryption, level Omega. The message shot through space, racing toward Earth faster than light. In orbital command, Admiral Carter received it within hours. He immediately called an emergency meeting. It's confirmed, he told the room full of military leaders. The Zorthalians are coming with 200 ships. They plan to turn humans into servants. The room buzzed with worried voices. 200 against our 12? Said General Ruth Allen. We should evacuate as many people as possible. To where? Asked Admiral Carter. No place in our solar system is safe from their weapons. Commander Diane Powell stood up. Our 12 ships are ready. Project Harbinger is installed on all of them. We've run the simulations hundreds of times. Simulations aren't reality, said General Allen. No, agreed Admiral Carter. But they're all we have. He turned to a screen showing Earth's 12 ships docked at the space station. Are the crews ready? Yes, sir, said Diane. They've been training for this moment for months. Then we fight, said Admiral Carter. His voice was firm. Humanity doesn't surrender. All over Earth, leaders told their people about the coming attack. Some people panicked. Many tried to hide, underground or in bunkers. The news showed long lines of cars leaving cities. People thought the end was coming. Lieutenant Sam Miller watched the news on the USS Horizon. He was now the tactical officer of Earth's newest ship. They're scared, he said. Captain Eli Johnson nodded. Of course they are, but fear can be useful. How? Asked Sam. The Zorthalians are watching our communications too, said Eli. They see our fear. They think we're weak and ready to give up. Sam smiled slowly. And that makes them confident, overconfident. Exactly, said Eli. Remember what Dr. Martinez said about their psychology. They can't imagine we might have a real plan. In space, the 12 ships moved into position. They formed a loose circle around Earth, far apart from each other. Each ship had been modified with Project Harbinger and Project Pandora. Each was commanded by a captain who knew the plan. On the third day, the sensors picked up something, a massive group of ships jumping into the solar system near Pluto. They're here, said Communications Officer Peter Young on the USS Intrepid. Commander Diane Powell nodded. Send the signal to all ships. Operation Ghost Protocol is now active. All 12 Earth ships turned off their main lights. Their engines went silent. To anyone looking, they appeared to be drifting, almost dead in space. The Zorthalian fleet moved forward in perfect formation. 200 massive ships in straight lines, heading directly for Earth. Their weapons were ready. On. The lead ship, Supreme Commander Kraz-Tur, looked at the human planet on his screen. Send the message, he ordered. His communications officer pressed some buttons. Message sent, Supreme Commander. On Earth, every screen and device received the alien message. Kraz-Tur's insect-like face appeared everywhere. People of Earth, he said, your planet is now under Zorthalian control. Your pathetic fleet cannot save you. Surrender your ships and accept your place as servants of the Dominion. If you resist, we will destroy your cities one by one. In orbital command, Admiral Carter listened to the message. He waited until it finished. Then he pressed a button to respond. This is Admiral John Carter of Earth. I wish to speak with the commander of your fleet. Kraz-Tur appeared on his screen. I am Supreme Commander Kraz-Tur. Have you come to surrender your tiny fleet? Admiral Carter's face showed no fear. We've been waiting for you. Kraz-Tur's mouth parts clicked rapidly in confusion. Then, Admiral Carter cut the transmission. On the USS Horizon, Sam Miller watched the Zorthalian fleet on his screen. They're still coming in the same formation. No changes. Captain Eli nodded. They don't think they need to adapt. They see 12 ships against 200. Little do they know, said Sam with a small smile. The Zorthalian fleet entered the middle of the solar system. They passed the orbit of Jupiter, still in their perfect lines. Their weapons charged, glowing with blue energy. Send the signal, said Admiral Carter from Earth. All 12 Earthships suddenly powered up. Their engines flared bright blue. But they didn't move to attack the alien fleet directly. Instead, they moved toward Jupiter. On his ship, Krasatour watched in confusion. Where are they going? Jupiter is not a defensive position. His tactical officer looked equally confused. Perhaps they are retreating, Supreme Commander. Pathetic, said Krasatour. Continue forward. We will deal with them after we secure the human planet. But the Earthships weren't retreating. They were accelerating around Jupiter, using the giant planet's gravity like a slingshot. They picked up speed, going faster and faster. Sam Miller felt the G-forces push him into his seat as the horizon whipped around Jupiter. The ship shook but held together. Speed approaching 90% of light, he reported. We're at attack velocity. Captain Eli gripped his chair. Activate Harbinger systems. All around the horizon, space began to bend. Light curved around the ship, making it hard to see clearly. The same thing happened to all 12 Earthships as they finished their slingshot around Jupiter. They were now moving toward the Zorthalian fleet at incredible speed, but because of the Harbinger systems, they appeared blurry, like mirages, in a desert. On his ship, Krasatour leaned forward. What is happening to their ships? Why can't we get a clear target lock? His weapons officer pressed buttons frantically. Unknown, Supreme Commander. Our targeting systems cannot focus on them. For the first time, Krasatour felt something new. Fear. Fire all weapons. Fire everything. The Zorthalian ships fired their energy weapons. Hundreds of blue beams shot toward the Earthships. But something strange happened. The beams curved around the human vessels, missing them completely, and the 12 ships of Earth's tiny fleet raced toward the alien armada at near light speed, ready to show the Zorthalians exactly why they should never have laughed. Admiral John Carter was a tall man with gray hair. He stood in Earth's orbital command looking at star maps. The big room was quiet except for the soft beeps of computers. The walls showed moving pictures of Earth's 12 warships. They laughed. At us? He asked. Commander Diane Powell nodded. Yes, sir. The Zorthalians found our fleet size funny. 12 ships is no joke, said Admiral Carter. Each cost more than some countries used to make in a year. Lieutenant Sam Miller stepped forward. He had dark circles under his eyes. He hadn't slept since they got back to Earth 3 days ago. Sir, I've been studying the Zorthalian ships and tactics. Admiral Carter waved his hand at a big screen. Show me. Sam touched some buttons on his tablet. The screen filled with pictures of the bug-like alien ships. The Zorthalians have many ships, but they all use the same weapons, energy beams that travel in straight lines, and look at how they arrange their ships. The screen showed 50 alien ships in perfect rows. They never break formation, said Sam. Not once in the 4 hours we watched them. It's like they can't think outside these patterns. Admiral Carter rubbed his chin. Interesting, but they still have thousands of ships. We have 12. That's why I asked Chief Engineer Amy Garcia to join us, said Diane. The door opened, and a short woman with curly hair walked in. She carried a small black box. Sorry I'm late. Had to make sure the model was working right. Amy put the box on the table and opened it. Inside was a small device shaped like a disc. She pressed a button. The disc floated up and started to glow blue. This is Project Harbinger, Amy said, her eyes bright with excitement. It bends space. Admiral Carter raised his eyebrows. Bends space? Yes, sir. Using gravity manipulation. It creates what we call blind spots, areas where light and energy curve around instead of going through. Sam pointed at the floating disc. If we put these on our ships, the Zorthalians' energy weapons might not be able to hit us. Their shots would bend around our ships. Admiral Carter looked doubtful. Might not. It needs testing, Amy admitted. But the math works. The door opened again. A man with glasses and a white coat walked in. He carried a tablet too. Dr. Frank Martinez, Diane said. Head of xenobiology. He's been studying the Zorthalian biology from our scans. Frank pushed his glasses up. Their brains are very different from ours. Based on our scans, the Zorthalians can't think in 3 dimensions the way we do. They see patterns, but only in straight lines. It's how their neural pathways are structured. Admiral Carter sat down. You're saying they can't think in curves? Not exactly, said Frank. They understand curves exist, but they can't plan complex three-dimensional movements or tactics. It's a biological limitation. The room was quiet as everyone thought about this. So they have thousands of ships that can only fight in straight lines. Admiral Carter finally said, and we have 12 ships that might be able to become invisible to their weapons by bending space around them. Yes, sir, said Diane. And there's more. Sam showed another image on the screen. This is a Zorthalian battle from 50 years ago that we found in their public records. Look at how they fight. The screen showed hundreds of ships firing at each other in lines. No ship ever moved out of formation. They just kept shooting until one side had no ships left. They have no concept of tactical retreat or adaptive positioning, said Sam. They just stand in lines and shoot until someone wins. Admiral Carter stood up and walked around the table. You think our 12 ships could beat their fleet? Not as we are now, said Diane. But with Project Harbinger and the right tactics? Maybe. Admiral Carter looked at each person in the room. I'm authorizing Operation Ghost Protocol. We'll run simulations to see if this crazy idea could work. 6 weeks passed. In a big room deep under the ocean, hundreds of people worked at computers. Giant screens covered the walls, showing battles between human and alien ships. Admiral Carter, Diane, Sam, Amy, and Frank watched as another simulation finished. That's the 50th run, said Sam. And we won again. The screen showed 12 blue dots moving in complex patterns around hundreds of red dots. The blue dots curved and spun in ways the red dots couldn't follow. One by one, the red dots disappeared. The Harbinger systems work in the simulations, said Amy. The aliens can't hit what they can't target correctly. And their rigid thinking means they can't adapt to our movements, added Frank. Admiral Carter nodded slowly. But real battles aren't simulations. Things go wrong. That's why we need Project Pandora too, said Diane. Amy pulled out another device, this one shaped like a small pyramid. Pandora is a communication system. It can tap into alien networks and send false information. Or true information, said Sam with a small smile. Sometimes the truth is more devastating than lies. Admiral Carter looked at the screens again. In every simulation, Earth's 12 ships defeated the alien fleet. It seemed impossible, but the numbers didn't lie. Begin fitting all 12 ships. With Harbinger and Pandora systems, he ordered. Full crews, full weapons, we need to be ready. Ready for what, sir? Asked Diane. The Zorthalians haven't threatened us yet. Admiral Carter's face turned serious. Not yet. But did you see how they talked about protection? How they laughed at our fleet? Species like that don't stay friendly for long. As if on cue, an officer ran into the room. Sir, we just got a message from our deep space listening post. The Zorthalians have attacked 3 systems near their border. They're claiming it was for security concerns. Everyone in the room looked at each other. The simulation suddenly felt very real. How long until Earth ships are ready? Asked Admiral Carter. 3 months for full installation and testing, said Amy. Admiral Carter nodded. Then we have 3 months to prepare for war. Because if the Zorthalians are expanding their territory, Earth will be next on their list. As they left the room, Sam walked beside Diane. Do you think we can really do this? Beat a fleet 50 times our size? Diane thought about the Zorthalians' laughter, their dismissal of humans as weak. They think we're nothing because we have few ships. That thinking will be their downfall. Outside, Earth turned peacefully, its people unaware of the storm coming their way. But in bases around the planet, 12 ships were being prepared for a battle that would decide humanity's future.